Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first let's hear from our podcast sponsors that make this all possible. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more at hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their athletes and their teams play better using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras, analytics, and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, starting with club and youth programs all the way through high school and college teams, and even professional organizations are using Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program, and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement some of their existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school's athletic department, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com for more information about their great products. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. You've heard me say that we have a Sideline Interactive video score table in our gym, and it's fantastic. We use it for volleyball and basketball games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies. We use it for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com to see what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. I promise you, you will be very impressed. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. And to learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, call 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. You will not be disappointed. We also want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data about your athletic department that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also puts you in touch with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program, and it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 888-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to check the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going back to Oklahoma. We've been visiting there a little frequently, but today we're going to talk with William Fears. William's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the athletic director at Frederick Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. William, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me. Excited to chat today.
Yeah, we've had this on the books for a while, so excited to see what's going on at your school and in the great state of Oklahoma. Well, as you know, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up and go to school? And maybe that 5-minute bio on how you became an AD.
Yeah, so originally from Oklahoma, was born in Tulsa. Always, the things are always constant were for my faith, my family, and sports. And so I knew I always wanted to be a part of something sports. And so I graduated from Oklahoma State with a degree in sports management. I took the professional route for a few years, and it ended up being kind of too much of a desk job for me. I knew I couldn't sit at a desk and make phone calls all day. And so my wife is a teacher, and my family historically has been teachers. And so I went and met with a teacher and an athletic director, and actually was able to get brought on kind of like an alternative certified deal, and was able to start teaching and coaching baseball, and just fell in love with it. I never had a job where I was so in love with getting up and going to work and being around kids. And so, I did that for 4 years. And then I got to a point where I was like, how can I serve and be more involved? Well, that next step seemed like the athletic director role. And so I was able to kind of volunteer for a couple of years. And then I got hired on at that school as the high school athletic director. And then now I'm at Douglas High School. It's my first year here, and I'm there, over their high school here. I'm the site athletic director here. So just a little quick synopsis how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, I always love to hear the stories. And again, reminds me that, most of us, participated in sports in high school. A few, did in college, but how many of your teammates at either level went on to become coaches? It takes a certain calling to do that. And then of all those coaches, how many, felt that calling to have, as you said, have an impact on kids in a different way to become an athletic director? Talk a little bit about that transition from coach to athletic director. What were some of the challenges? What were some of the exciting things that happened?
Well, the challenges were, when you're a coach, you get to build those really close relationships with the kids. I was really upset about that, honestly. I was like, man, those are some special relationships that we've had, and I don't want to give that up. But the exciting part has been able to be involved with everybody. I'm able to be at more practices. I'm able to more games, just have a wider reach, wider range, get to know coaches more. And so it's actually, not as deep a relationships, but I've been able to have I've had more relationships with other athletes and coaches. And so that's really, I guess, eased my transition, because it was definitely hard wanting to give up the coaching role. That's a special job, but that relationship piece is what makes me tick. And so that's really made it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's such an important point. I remember when I first became an AD, I was also a head football coach, and I was able to continue that for a few years. Obviously, really enjoyed it. But becoming that athletic director, you get to, live a little bit through the lives of those student athletes in, girls sports, swimming, baseball, softball, things that I was not involved with, growing up as a student athlete. So just very, very cool, very rewarding. For our listeners, we're visiting with William Fears. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Frederick Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, but we'll be back with some more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Huddle for their support of the Educational AD podcast. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their athletes and their teams play better using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, starting with club and youth programs all the way through high school and college teams. And even the professionals are using Huddle to help their players perform better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams that you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your school, and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back to our interview with William Fears, Certified Athletic Administrator from Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Coach, in our profession, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I always ask our guests, who are some of the mentors that you had growing up? Maybe family members or coaches. None of us got here by ourselves. So who helped you along the way?
I would say probably the most influential person, my family definitely was it. I kind of outside of my family, it was our youth pastor. His name's Kenny Ward. He kind of just took me under his wing, helped me to, basically just grow into a man. He actually ended up marrying my wife and I. And so it was a cool relationship that we still have to this day. And he was very, a special person in our life. And so definitely attribute a lot of my successes to him. So.
We also have a lot of younger athletic directors that listen to the podcast. And I think it's important for them to hear the journey that we each take. I'm a little bit further along in my career than you, but share how you got involved with your state association and how that led to involvement with NIAAA.
Yeah, so if you ask anybody from Oklahoma, they can tell you I'm probably the person that bugs them the most. I've always wanted to get involved. I've always wanted to just help out wherever I can. I'm a nobody from nowhere. And so I'm trying to make my name and just grow and learn. And so as much as I can in my state association, I've gone and met with ADs, just gone and sat in their office, pick their brains. I go and, tour their school and just anything I can to be around kind of the giants per se for, in our state and in our, just certified, ADs. And so that's how I really got involved. And then actually, I was involved in the NIAAA. I had been to, I guess Maryland was my first conference, but when the pandemic hit, I really used that as an opportunity to meet other ADs and get to know them. One close to you, John Scromolo in Florida. Him and I have a little bit of a relationship, and some others. I'd have to. The biggest one who's helped me get involved is Dustin Smith, Dr. Dustin Smith in Arkansas. He is, I wouldn't be anywhere I am without him. He's probably going to kill me for shouting him out here, but he has helped me, to be an AD, to transition into, being a good father and good husband in this, and really just how to be a better AD. And so he's helped me so much with getting involved. This past convention, I served on the awards committee. And so he helped me get involved with that. He helped me, with my classes and my CAA, and I should be able to, hopefully, Lord willing, be with CMAA soon. And so I'm really excited about that. But, honestly, anything that I was able to, volunteer and get involved in with the NIAAA and the OIAAA, I did it because that's what the best ADs that I saw were doing, and that's how they learned. And so that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of really good points. One is just, that thirst for knowledge, that lifelong learner, and just, asking questions. And ADs are the best people to reach out to. They can't wait to share an idea or something that's worked at their school or something they borrowed or stole from another AD. And very cool that you mentioned, John Scromolo, a good friend of mine. He was on our FIAAA board, still is, one of the real rising stars in the state of Florida. He's actually going to be kind of a co-host with me on an upcoming episode. We're interviewing one of his professors from the University of Missouri. And of course,
Cool.
Dr. Dustin Smith, we've got to know each other in the last couple of years. And I don't know if you know, but he just started his own podcast with another doctor, Dr. Danielle Lapointe from Florida, and they call it Paradox. It's on Spotify. It's their theme is Untold Stories from Athletic Director. So they've already had a couple episodes. Check it out. We'll do a little cross promotion. Paradox podcast. So for our listeners, we are visiting with William Fierce. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Frederick Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Coach, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, find out how you do things there, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would love any text, phone calls. I'm on Twitter. It's at Douglas AD. But yeah, we can go over that. And anybody that wants to reach out via phone call, text, I'd love to hear from them. So I could, leave my phone number and put in the show notes or whatever we need to do with that. So
right, we'll do that at the end of the podcast. So stay tuned. Once again, we're visiting with William Fierce, certified athletic administrator. We'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com to find out exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. You really need to check them out. Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting with William Fierce, certified athletic administrator and the director of athletics at Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Coach, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you do at your school, maybe even things that you've initiated or things you've seen at other schools that you're particularly proud of? Do you have any best practices you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the best things that's made me most successful this year is my relationship with the alumni and with the booster club. I came into this and I was really nervous about that. There's lots of bad raps about alumni and booster clubs, but this school has a rich tradition and rich history that I built on that. I was able to get support when it comes to anything, running the concession stand. If we need something, I have a contact where I can reach out and they kind of go to work for you. And so that's a big thing that we do here that I think makes us really successful. They've provided meals for teams. I mean, just anything you think of, they've taken care of us. And so that's really a big thing that we do. It's really allowed, that alumni to the school is gone through, a rough 3 or 4 years as far as not winning a whole lot, support, things like that. And so that's really brought them back. And also to play off that, I've really pushed social media presence. It's something that didn't really exist. And that's actually helped that alumni kind of see, okay, things are still happening. COVID didn't just ruin sports. And so that's really, really helped them learn okay, I can follow the team along and we are still doing what we're doing and they getting them out. And so that's allowed different opportunities with alumni based on that. So.
Again, it's so important to connect with the current generation, the parents who are alums, and also, those generations from previous years that still want to be involved, but, maybe they're not quite media savvy. So great way to reach out. I'm curious, there's a lot of different ways to run a booster program or an alumni program. Is yours run, let's say, as part of, and let's say under the supervision of the athletic director, or is it an independent organization that, I don't mean this in a bad way, kind of makes its own rules?
Yeah, no. So how we do it is a separate organization. Everything is kind of on their own, but we have frequent communication. So that way, if they want to do something, they run it by me. They don't just do something willy nilly. They want to make sure that I know what's going on and I approve and that kind of thing. And, that relationship has gone really well. That's one of the things I'm most proud of, is rebuilding that, because it hasn't been here for a long time. And so just that open communication, always, talking to different people within the organization just to make sure we're all on the same page. And it's worked out really well.
Yeah, the communication is so important. I don't know what direction you're leaning, but who knows, that might be a good CMAA project to talk about the story. For our listeners, once again, we're visiting with William Fears. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Frederick Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're going to be back with some more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. It's a really cool product. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting with William Fears, Certified Athletic Administrator. Coach, one of the questions we've been asking our ADs for a long time has to do with this idea of being socially aware. So, for your school, for your community, how can an athletic director do a better job of this? Do you have any advice for us?
So I think when it comes to being socially aware, your best source of information is the kids. I make it a very, I make it super important to be around them and just talk to them. Not necessarily talk to them about, on the sports or on the field, whatever happened on the field, but that does lead to those other questions, because that way you build those relationships. I really, really enjoy building relationships with the kids, because that way, when things do happen, or when you hear things, you can just talk to them. They trust you, that you've built that relationship. You've shown them that you care about more than what they do on and off the field, or on the field or on the court or whatever. And then they want to talk. A lot of them don't have avenues to talk about certain things, and that leads to those conversations. And that's how I learn. I don't consider myself super far removed from them, but there's definitely things they talk about that I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that means. And so, like, having those relationships, I'm able to, build it, kind of hone on it, and be like, hey, so what's going on? Like, what is this issue? Let's talk about it. And so my school is a historically Black high school. It's one of the first ones in Oklahoma. And so, there's a lot of history and a lot of things here that, we get to talk about, and I get to learn about, and it definitely helps me be more, aware of, what they're going through. And so.
Yeah, it's so important. You really hit it on the head, the relationships. What were some things that you did when you first came there to start that process of building those relationships? Do you remember a couple things that stick out for you?
Yeah. The number one thing I think was just going to as many practices as I can. Just being around, being involved, doing whatever I can. One of my favorite stories is after a volleyball game, I was picking up trash in the stands, and one of the volleyball players said, "Hey, are you the new custodian?" And I was like, that just led to that conversation, and it was just that started that relationship, and I think just being around as much as possible so they can see my face when I see them in the hall, like, "Hey, man, great job last night," and they're like, "Who's this random guy talking to me?" And that way they learn who you are, and they're not just some random fan or random employee of the school, and they know who you are, and they want to build a relationship with you, and so then they start saying hi to you in the hallways. And I think just being around as much as possible, getting to practices, and just meeting as many kids as you can that way.
No, absolutely. Those hallway moments, cafeteria, dining hall, and also, picking up the trash, whether it's in the gym or the field or the hallways. They see that, you're taking pride in that facility, pride in the program. Very cool stuff. William, this has been great. Spend a little bit of time with you and getting to know you, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the Athletic Director's Toolbox, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. We're going to take a quick break and hear from Athletic Surveys, but when we come back, we're going to find out what William Fears is going to put into his new Athletic Director Toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also puts you in touch with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic department from good to great. Well, we come to that point of the podcast that we call the Athletic Director's Toolbox. Our guest has been William Fears. He's a certified athletic administrator, certainly knows his way around an athletic department. But right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on his very first job, or their very first job. But I'm only going to let him put 3 things in their toolbox. William, what 3 items are going to go into your athletic director toolbox?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the number one thing you have to do as a new AD is to, we've kind of talked about it a lot, is to build those relationships. So I think that is going and having a sit down meeting with all your coaches and all people invested in your program. So you build those relationships from day one, so they know who you are, and they know what you're about and what your mission and goal is, and that that helps you do your job a lot better and know who's on board and maybe who needs help with that. My second one is to be all right. You need to be all right with making mistakes. I think when I started, I really was afraid of making mistakes, and so I wouldn't make a decision. It made sense. I had the right, the backing, but I didn't do something, or maybe I did it a different direction because I was worried about making mistakes. We all make mistakes. Every AD has made mistakes and will continue to hopefully make less mistakes. But when you first start, you're going to make mistakes. And so don't let the fear of making a mistake hold you back from your growth and development, because you might have a good idea, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you change it and you move on. And so that's my second one. And my third one, which has been really crucial for me, is to be able to write everything down and have a to-do list. Like I get so many people. I have a small athletic department. I can't imagine the bigger ones. I have so many people reaching out to me. Hey, we need this, or hey, can you take a look at this? And I tried for the longest time, like, okay, I'll do that. But it was a really easy to forget. And so having a to-do list, having a cheat sheet on your phone, that has to be, you have to have that. Even if you're good at remembering things, I think that keeps you accountable, and that allows you to get to the end of the day and see, okay, this didn't get done. We got to do this tomorrow, and go from there. But those are the three that have been crucial to my success so far. And honestly, when I'm considered not a new AD, they're still going to be important to what I do. So.
I really appreciate you sharing that part about the relationships. It's so critical, and no surprise based on some of the things that you already shared with us. And the documentation, whether it's on your laptop, your cell phone, or a legal pad, writing things down, having that to-do list, very, very good suggestions. William, again, this has been really neat getting to know you just a little bit. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, if they want to shoot me an email, my email is super simple. It's just my first name. So william.fears17@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. And then if they want to follow me on Twitter, reach out via Twitter. It's just DHS Trojans AD. So just DHS Trojans AD. So feel free to reach out. I would love to talk, chat, shop, talk about anything. Has to do with this complicated job. And like I keep talking, relationships are so important to me in this job. And so as many as I can get, that's where I'm about.
All right. Well, again, thanks so much for sharing with us today, and all the best moving forward.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it. This has been, really fun, and I look forward to, watching the rest of the episodes as they roll out. So,
okay. Well, we appreciate your support. For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews are uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing.